Hello friends, this is Odds according to a recently leaked trailer, and today I'm gonna answer when do you X against Y. Typically people ask me when do you cleanse against the plague, but lately they also ask when to use the vaccines against Nemesis and a bunch of other similar questions. Since I usually just give very quick answers, I figured maybe I would make a video about it and explain it to the best of my ability very concisely. So we're gonna be covering these killers, and I'm gonna be telling you when to do X against them. Let's get started with the Trapper. What is the one thing you can do to disrupt him? Disarm his traps. Typically speaking, anytime you can disarm a trap is a good idea. You get points, they know where you are, so, you do reveal your location, be careful about that. But typically it is a very good trade-off. The trap becomes disarmed, you waste only a few seconds. The killer typically wastes a lot more time picking it up, finding it, placing it, and then later resetting it. Obviously, if the killer is literally locking down a place and they reset the trap really quickly, there's no point in disarming it in front unless you need to do it quickly to let a teammate out of a basement or something. And do be careful because the killer can hit you while you're disarming a trap without stepping on it. So do be careful with that. If a trap is completely in the open and you can easily step around it, sometimes it's best not to even worry about it and just call it out to your teammates and just step around it. You don't need to disarm it because maybe the trapper will think that the trap is good and not even bother picking it up. If you're playing solo, then maybe you should disarm this type of traps. However, do remember the trapper does have the bloody coil add-on, which will make you injured if you disarm a trap while you're healthy. This is a very nasty add-on, but there's a way to realize that it's there. If you disarm a trap and you realize that the speed of the disarmament is just about as fast as usual, but it looks red, there's a very good chance that he's using a red coil. And if you do go through with the disarmament, then you will be injured. In these situations, disarm as little as possible, obviously, unless you're already injured. Moving on to the Hag. The Hag is a lot faster at placing traps, but you can also be much faster at disarming and getting rid of them. If you have a flashlight, it goes without saying, anytime you can, aim it at a trap for just a half a second and the trap disappears. If the Hag is not paying attention, they don't get any good notification, so it's very easy for them to not realize what you're doing. Even if you mess up and you trigger a trap, you can try to disarm it while it's active, and if the Hag is not fast enough, you will still be able to remove it before they can teleport. Your basic idea with Hag is anytime you know where a trap is, you're gonna walk to it, looking at it, so your camera doesn't swing. Looking at the trap, you're gonna walk to it and then immediately do a 180 and run away. And typically, unless you make a mistake, the Hag will not be able to catch up. So you'll disarm a trap and it will be very good for you because you'll be erasing her map pressure and distracting her. That being said, be careful with your timing. If you're injured, if you're almost dead, if you're in a zone with absolutely no protection, maybe it's best to just ignore it. If you want to be extra safe, you can also trigger traps while the killer is busy recovering from some animation. If you see on the HUD that a teammate just took a hit, if you see that the killer is breaking a pallet, breaking a generator, anything like that, or if you think they're too far out of the range, then disarming a trap should be very safe and generally a very good idea. Moving on, against the Nightmare Freddy, waking up. Waking up can be done at certain clocks that spawn around the map, but typically the clock that you need to go is the one that's furthest from you at the moment of falling asleep. So this requires you to waste a considerable amount of time going through the map and waking up. Is it worth doing it? In my opinion, not too much. But if you're already going around the map and you just happen to have a clock nearby, or if you're choosing between two generators to go do, maybe do kill two birds in one stone and do wake up. Waking up via the clock is very good. It will keep you awakened for the normal 60 seconds, but also a protected 30-second window before. If you get hit during this 30-second window, Freddy doesn't even put you to sleep, which means that for those 30 seconds at least, you are completely safe from snares and illusory pallets. So endgame, waking up is a very good idea to make sure you don't have to deal with any of that. So yeah, if it's convenient, do it. Otherwise, don't go too much out of your way. Don't forget that other survivors can wake you up as well. Although, if they keep waking you up more and more, it will take longer and longer. Moving on to the pig. Now, with the pig, when she puts a reverse bird trap on you, you typically just want to go and do the searches as soon as you can. In normal conditions, you have quite a bit of extra time to do it. It takes 2.5 minutes for you to die after the trap is active. So even if it's out of the active when you get off the hook, you probably have quite a lot of time to search all 4 boxes, maybe get healed in between, maybe help with the generator in between if you really, really want to. However, there are a few circumstances where you should avoid doing any of this and just rush and get those searches done. If you notice that the pig has a slightly faster setting trap animation, or that the bar when you search is red, that means there is a crate or a bag of gears. These add-ons will slow down the searches, and they can be quite nasty compared with combined with the other add-ons. The other add-ons are the ones, the sketches that make more than 4 jigsaw boxes appear. If you see more than 4, it's a good idea to probably start searching. There's also the tamper timer, which will cut your timer by 30 seconds, and it's very hard to see it. So if you notice any of these add-ons in play, you will have your head popped if you're a bit unlucky. So waste no time, get the searches done as quickly as possible. Moving on to the Legion. Some people don't realize that you have quite a bit of time to mend. I believe they brought it down recently, but still you have a good 20 seconds to mend after Legion hits you with their power. And there's no good reason for you to mend immediately. It's actually quite a bad idea. Sometimes Legion hits you, goes away, realizes there's no one else in range, and comes back right at you, only to find you mending in the same spot. You've wasted 15 seconds, for example, for absolutely no good reason. For that reason, I recommend that if you can do something useful in those 20 seconds, like finish opening a gate, finish a generator, finish healing someone else, go ahead and do it. And if the killer comes back, you can just keep running, stay in chase, and you should be fine. If the killer doesn't come back, then you can mend, and it's totally fine. As for healing, Legion can undo healing very, very quickly. I don't recommend you always try to stay healed against Legion. Instead, try to stay in a place where if Legion chases you, you have a good chance of staying alive for a little while, even if you're injured, because he doesn't really have anything else once you're injured to down you faster. If you have a great medkit, a great perk, some quick method of healing yourself, or if you're in extreme danger and you're the only person dead on hook, stuff like that, then yeah, do bother to heal, because in those situations, it's typically worth the time. Next up, we go against Plague. Cleansing against Plague. Why do we ever do it? Well, you need to cleanse at some point against the Plague. If the Plague gets everybody injured, eventually she will drink from her 1 or maybe even more, depending on add-ons, from one of her red pools, and she will suddenly go and immediately down everyone and snowball really hard and wipe the team, and that's not a great idea. However, that doesn't mean that you should cleanse immediately. Do not cleanse if you are not yet injured, if you're not in immediate danger. Try to cleanse in an area where there are no gens, or where the gens are already done, so that if the Plague goes there to drink it, everyone is really far away. If you're already far away when the Plague gets her power, in most maps, by the time she gets to you, you will waste so much of her time, and it will really not be worth it. So as long as you are careful and only cleanse in strategic far away locations, ideally when you're dead on hook, or ideally when you've already been hooked once, not necessarily if the game is going really well, then that will be very good for you. It will really make it difficult for her to use her power. At the end of the game, typically the Plague doesn't really have the ability to be everywhere at once. There's 2 exit gates, maybe 3 or 4 survivors left. Cleansing there is a really good idea, because she cannot typically use that time. By the time she goes and drinks it, everybody's out through the exit gate. So at the end of the game, by all means, cleanse to your heart's desire. Until then, try to be strategic, try to pay attention to where the pools that already start corrupted are, and try to avoid them, because if you don't give her a good chance to use her real power, she's a pretty basic killer that doesn't really have anything else going for her. Next up, we have the Demogorgon. Now, the Demogorgon has portals that, for the most part, I recommend you should just ignore. It's really not a huge deal. If he teleports, you typically hear noises. You have time to react. Just keep an eye on them. Sometimes, if you might want to do a portal, and then only later realize that portal was next to another portal, and you wasted your time. So yeah, if the Demogorgon steps several portals, you're wasting your time sealing them, in my opinion. I would say only seal portals if you are pretty certain that that is the only portal in the area, that the Demogorgon has not had time to set more portals up, and if the Demogorgon in a very large map is very far away and you need those 20 seconds to finish a gen, for example, or to protect someone else. In that scenario, it is a good idea to cleanse a portal. Otherwise, I say don't bother too much. Next up, we have the twins. And many people ask, when should you get rid of Victor? Should you crush him immediately? Or should you hold him as a hostage for a little while? Well, if you get hit by Victor, some bad things happen. You are basically useless. You cannot do gens. You cannot heal yourself. You do not hear the terror radius of the killer, Charlotte, so you might be ambushed. First thing you should do is go somewhere where Charlotte will not be able to ambush you, so go somewhere in the open. A really good idea is for you to keep crushing Victor and then last second cancel it. So that if you're going to keep him hostage for a little bit, the killer doesn't realize. They think that you're about to get rid of it, but then last second you cancel it and don't actually commit to the animation. That will keep them a little bit confused. If you think that during those 30 seconds that the killer needs to be able to recall Victor, you can actually make distance and the killer cannot really do much, then it's a good idea to keep Victor hostage. Let's say that you're running across the map to a generator that you want to go. Yeah, keep Victor for an extra 10 or 15 seconds. It's a pretty good idea. You will make it harder for the killer to start injuring other people. Once you're in your destination, then you can get rid of it. More likely, the killer will just press M2 and recall Victor back after those 30 seconds or more have passed. And that is generally the best thing to do. The only time where you really want to get rid of Victor as soon as possible is if the exit gates are open and you're healthy. If you get Victor attached to you, that will create a mini Blood Warden where the exit gates will be blocked and you can be killed. In these situations, try not to get hit if injured, and obviously get rid of him as quickly as possible. And after that, we get to Nemesis. So with Nemesis, there's actually quite a few ways to use these vaccines. One thing you can do is very simple. If you are infected, you can just go to the closest vaccine case, open it, and use it on the spot, and now you removed the infection. Unless you are being a complete clown and you're just running into the killer a lot, typically this is a very good thing for you. The killer typically will spend a lot of time to infect you, and you can get rid of it relatively quickly if you consider all the time that your teammates have. So this is generally it's a really good idea. However, do not give free hits to the killer for free, thinking that you have vaccines, because you can quickly run out. It is better to save some of these vaccines, at least 1 or 2, for the endgame, for anyone that's dead on hook. If you are not in immediate danger and you think you're fine, you haven't been hooked, the generators are going well, you shouldn't really rush it. One thing you can do always is pick one of the vaccines if you don't have an item and carry it with you. This is really powerful because you can even use it during chase if you have the right opportunity and use it on a teammate. The only drawback to doing this is that if your teammates are solo players and they're not communicating with you, they might be confused as to where the vaccines went if they need them themselves. Do remember though that when you use the vaccine, you create a little heartbeat killer instinct and the killer will see where you are. So if you're trying to hide from the killer, maybe don't use the vaccine somewhere where the killer will quickly get to you. Instead, go very far away where, you know, that information will basically be useless to the killer. And if you keep that in mind, vaccines are quite effective and can be used quite effectively against Nemesis. Hopefully that and the other examples help to answer any of your questions. And if you have any more regarding other killers, do let me know in the comments. I'm sure they're not as complex as some of these, but maybe me or some of the other commenters can help you out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.